When I'm feeling at my most hopeful, I think that dreams can spark real epiphanies. Have you ever wished that the things that you dream come true? Do you dare to dream those kinds of dreams? This is Dream Space from Factory International with me, Gemma Cairney. I'm a writer, a broadcaster, and an art lover. Above all, I'm an avid dreamer. To me, dreams are powerful antidotes. They give us the means to escape reality when things seem hopeless or nightmarish and help us conjure up a better tomorrow. It's here on Dream Space that we let our imaginations run wild, inventing tomorrow together. In each episode, we invite some of the world's most exciting artistic minds to fill this limitless imaginary space with their dreams. No limits, no boundaries, no boring paperwork to fill in. Oh my goodness, freedom! No rules to follow. All the while thinking, how can we use creativity to make the world a better place? Follow me. In the previous episode, we heard all about DJ Paulette's aquatic dream space that involved a lot of water, cascading waterfalls in fact, and even being able to ignite rainbows and share them. For our second episode of Series 2, I am joined by also dance floor loving, multidisciplinary London-based artist, Hetain Patel.
With all of us, we have our limits, don't we? We have our blind spots. We can only imagine what we can imagine. And so I feel like my job as an artist when I'm working with people is to propose something else and to propose something that, what is a thing that we've not yet imagined for ourselves? I guess it's a bit audacious in the sense of like trying to suggest a dream.
Born and raised in a working-class British-Gujarati Asian household in Bolton, Hetain's work explores the increasingly murky ground between reality and fantasy, fixed identity and transformation, aiming at building bridges between marginalised cultures and something that is big in pop culture and recognisable. His work includes turning his first car into a massive transformer and impersonating superheroes that shaped his childhood on theatre stages and on film. I first met Hetain in 2021 when we were working on a series together, which was travelling the UK, meeting artists all over the different regions. It was a fascinating time, and I cannot wait to enter Hetain's dream space. It's Hetain, my old pal. How are you?
I'm so good. How are you doing, Gemma? Been a while.
I'm really good. I know it's been a while. So happy to delve into your dreams because I know that you won't disappoint with them being unexpected or bizarre.
No, not sure if that's no pressure or like just kind of a weird angle.
In a fantastic way. I'm really
I'll
intrigued.
Take it.
You wear your surrealism on your sleeve, you know, within your work. Mm-hmm. You're brave with what you try, and it feels like your imagination is a driving force. Are you a dreamer?
I'm not sure, you know. That question makes me feel quite reserved in a way. I feel like there's a lot going on. The art part is the processing of things. And I feel like sometimes I can only process a little bit at a time. Maybe the dreaming is part of that process. Within those moments, you sort of try to create those spaces where things can feel a bit less defined or rules-based somehow.
I love that. I'm all for just kicking out the rules and the structure and letting it be something that is almost organic to a part of our consciousness that we're often told whilst IRL in real life we haven't got time for. Yeah, totally.
For me, I think it's about trying to tap into your instincts. I feel like there's a lot out there going on which works against your instincts or tells you that your instincts are not right, or, you know, it says you should do this, you should look like this, be this, do that, and if you don't, we'll get you for it. And so to be able to block some of that out and to trust all those things that you feel, even if they don't make sense. I feel like my mind, at least over the years, has maybe got a bit better at blocking out some of the noise and trying to let some of that instinct drive decisions and ideas.
When we enter your dream space, what is the general vibration?
I think it's relaxed. I don't mean relaxed as in necessarily feeling like you're on a beach, although I like that feeling too. I think it's maybe to do with safety and not feeling like you're looking over your shoulder, or not feeling tense, shoulders dropped, and feeling attuned to things. I'm thinking of that sequentially in the starting point, but I guess take that further, and that shoulder drop leans into movement, into swinging arms, or kind of a step that feels freer, or feels where you're not second guessing yourself, or you're not kind of moving away from being self-conscious, I guess.
As someone who in their career has integrated movement, physicality and dance, what would you say are your tips, let's go with, as to how we can access a different sense of embodied physicality? Because I think many of us are holding stress on a somatic level that we don't really know how to drop. And I love this sensation that you're offering us of a real ease within our physical selves. But how might we get there? Is it as complex or as intense as that seems?
I'm not sure it's that complex. I mean, it's like that old phrase, isn't it? Dance like nobody's watching. And I think you've got to dance when there's nobody watching. I do that in the studio. If I'm feeling stressed or need to unwind or need to get up from the laptop, I whack some music on and I dance. And there's no mirrors around, I've got no interest in seeing myself do that. It's about like ridding yourself of what you might look like or what that physicality is. We're often part of what's out in the world makes us scared of our bodies or ashamed of our bodies, and that definitely attributes to not having freedom with it. A lot of the times that's not our fault, but it's hard to connect into that. And so I think it's hopefully as simple as dancing. You can just do it by shaking, jumping. I feel like it's something you've got to practice. Do it every day or every week. I think the more that you do it, the more you can become confident that no one's watching, that the door's locked, and you can feel freer in it. And I think for me personally, that helps me a lot. I feel like I think quite physically and visually, so I need to be in my body.
I would invite, as the Dream Tour Guide, anyone listening right now to at least take a little shake, even if you're on public transport or you're in your workplace, or perhaps not. Maybe you are somewhere where no one is watching. Just have a shake as we get into Heitain's dream. In your dream, what are the sounds? What music can we hear?
This is such a personal thing, isn't it? I feel like music's different for all of us, and for me, I lean to different things depending on what mood I'm in. I do like dance music to kind of bring up my tempo, bring up my heartbeat, bring up my mood. And then other times I like kind of long, slow filmic music. Again, this kind of a reverberation of something that feels big, something that has a low frequency, that kind of vibrates the body. Not necessarily even in a jumpy way, but in a way that physically connects you to things. I like that. It kind of reminds you that your organs are alive. And so it's about, being aware of your body, I think.
I think they should put dub raves on prescription.
Yeah, why don't they?
So that you can just stand in front of a speaker in unison with others and let that ripple effect of vibration move through your body without having to talk, without having to think, but let it take you.
Totally. It's funny you say about other people as well. I feel like if you're dancing with other people and they're free, it makes you feel free, or at least it does for me. If you're dancing and you're aware that people are dancing just like they move, or they're not bothered about how they look, or they're just kind of letting loose, it sort of encourages you to do the same thing. This space where you're not being watched, where you're just kind of doing it together to that same music. It's so great.
Here we are. Your score is ranging. I like that we're on a flow. And are there other artists there? Anyone that you look up to or whose work that you just have a synergy with, that you would like to either perform or create something visual?
I think Louise Stern would be in there. She's an American deaf writer, visual artist, filmmaker. I've worked with her over many years through film and performance. She understands language so deeply and communication so deeply. Novels featuring deaf protagonists are really about the physical body, about how we communicate. Those books are so accessible in the best way, but gives you a sort of a real thirst for this access to your own body through those signed languages, this idea that you're, instead of thought being trained to exercise your tongue and your mouth into kind of codified words, that thought or that feeling is first expressed through your body, through your limbs and your face and your eyes, and how you connect with people, and that ideas of bass and reverberation and music are still in that world. They're very physical. A bit like dance, there's something about having access to your own body in terms of how you express yourself, or how it's a container for our emotions, or how we regulate all of that. It's so messy, isn't it?
The dream is a personal space. Like sometimes I'm like, I'm not going to tell anyone about that dream, but how do we make it shared? I'm really interested in the bridge. Like, what is the driving force to actually bring it out into fruition, into actuality?
Yeah, for me, definitely it's connection. I want to feel like those things that I'm feeling matter, that I'm not alone in it. Ultimately, the heart of it for me, all the work's about freedom. And that's kind of rooted in how can we see ourselves on our own terms, or how can we be on our own terms, and getting into that, and how we do that. And that's some of what you're talking about as well, as to what those dreams are, some of which make sense, some don't, some just are feelings, and then some of it is making propositions. It's actually taking a bit of a leap. With all of us, we have our limits, don't we? We have our blind spots. We can only imagine what we can imagine. And so I feel like my job as an artist, when I'm working with people, is to propose something else, and to propose something that, what is a thing that we've not yet imagined for ourselves? I guess it's a bit audacious in the sense of trying to suggest a dream.
We need some audacity.
Yeah.
I'm all for it.
It's a scary thing though, isn't it? It's like you've got to put yourself out there.
Yeah, it's this mad push and pull between something that's so liberating in the release of putting it out there. So here we are allowed to be audacious at the same time as being free. I like it. I like this dream. Everyone can do what they need to do. Within that, are there any limits? This is an embodied experience so far.
Yeah. In some ways, that's enough. If we're thinking of this kind of solo walk and feeling free, for me, the next thing is physical connection and touch. It's also one of these places that's things that is kind of fraught with trauma and all of these sort of things, but it's also a place of connection and love and pleasure and all of those sort of things. And so I think there's something about touch and negotiation and connection and all of those sort of things. I guess I think about, for example, in my head, I've kind of got moving limbs and touch and dance and transmission across skin and warmth, heartbeat, and all of those things that we're innately able to do because we're human. But there's lots of other things that kind of make that messy. I think that exploration is definitely worth it. What does a signed language look and feel like that incorporates touch? What are those things that could be transmitted between us through in real life touch? This thing that we all have of wanting to be understood and often not feeling understood. Wouldn't it be great if we could transmit this through touch? A bit matrixy, maybe. This thing in the Matrix, you plug this thing into your neck and suddenly kung fu, or suddenly you can fly a helicopter. Like, imagine through some sort of handshake or some sort of hug that you could understand the depths of someone. That's definitely what I'd add into this somehow.
So beautiful. A consensual authenticity to exploring all parts of ourselves through sensory touch and movement. Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it. And I love that you have put an onus on the safety of that as well. That it is possible for us actually to create these spaces where we do come into physical contact with one another, but that we all feel autonomous and safe.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's such a fraught area, isn't it? All of this sort of stuff that ignites your empathy. It's not easy, is it?
Is there anyone else that you would like to include? Who's important in terms of, to you, that's there and that gets to experience this?
I'd like to include some cars.
Okay.
Mainly Ford Escorts, made in the 1980s.
Okay.
They've got to be pristine. They've got to be largely XR3Is. And they can be a few different colours. They can be white or red.
Yeah.
Or some might be black.
Can I ask why, or?
I'm just in love with them. And I think, they can be electric. They don't have to be, they can be converted. I don't mind. They can be solar powered. But they have to look like that and they have to smell like they smell.
When did you fall in love with these Fords?
Those old Fiestas and Escorts were one of my first feelings of freedom for me. When I first passed my test, my dad bought me this Fiesta. It was a banged up piece of thing, But it was the first time, I grew up in a strict household. The first time behind the wheel on my own. It was a really profound experience. The idea that you can turn left and it goes left, turn right and it goes right, or you put your foot down and you move faster than your body can move, and that you're in control of that was mind-blowing. And so to be given that as a gift is kind of mad. And so, is that feeling is attached to those shapes and those clunkiness for me, I think.
So perhaps we all get there in a Ford Escort.
That's right. Everyone gets one.
All right, fabulous.
Expect as you want it. You can have whatever design you want, Gemma. You don't even have to go with the colour code I just said. Whatever. You can just get that.
All right, I like it. Smells, will that be part of our sensory notions in this dream?
Thinking mango in the air.
Yes.
It's going to be some coriander.
Oh.
Probably some garlic, some ginger. Don't know if any of those things, want to be together. I'm not sure, but I'm putting them in there. Air. Feeling movement of air across space. Food smells of cooking, oil, onions frying. Comfort smells.
Taste? Do we get to eat whatever's being cooked?
Hell yeah, of course. and you know, and taste in different ways. You know, I coming from Gujarati Indian heritage. You know, I've grown up all my life eating food with my hands, and so you know, the experience of eating food is smell first, and then it's seeing it, and then it's touch. All that before it enters your mouth or you taste it. So it was a really strange transition when I was growing up to use a knife and a fork. This idea that you don't touch the food first with your hands.
Such a difference as well, like that harsh, cold, pointy metal.
Yeah. It's like trying to keep something at bay rather than something you want to ingest or to taste, sort of thing. And so it's like, you know, there's a process missing.
What temperature are we at in your dream?
We are toasty warm. Like, I cannot do the cold, you know. I'm just someone who's always cold, so I love the warm. So, you know, and I think for me, definitely that feels like it adds to this physical relax, untenses your muscles, releases your tendons. There's something about that heat which feels like, you know what it's like when it feels like your bones are getting warmed.
Gonna thaw us all out.
Yeah.
Loving it. When was the last time you experienced something that was audacious made by somebody else?
Good question.
I read that you're a big fan of a dance group in West Yorkshire, right? They're called the Bingley Dance Studio. I checked out some of their videos on Instagram and wow, they are fantastical. How would you describe them?
That would totally fit under there. You know, these are like young girls from, you know, 5 or 6 to sort of teenage, and the dance that they do, if you were to see it for the first time, it probably looks like gymnastics, you know, kind of splits and spins and jumps and leaps and stretches, except it feels unfiltered. It feels wild, freeing, partly because the music is this kind of high tempo, hardcore dance gabba kind of thing. And it's just like, you think, wow, you like this music? This is insane. And yet the expression is so electrifying. It's like, where do you see these spaces for these young girls to express anger or rock out or be free and not be ruled? And you know what it feels like when you see something like that, right? It makes you feel free, or it makes you feel like, oh my God.
And it also leaves you kind of swept away or in awe of our ability potentially to freestyle. Is just so cool. It shows how much capacity like we have in our bodies when we don't necessarily overthink it, but maybe we let music move us. It's making me want to do it right now.
Yeah. What are the things that push that body, you know? And all our bodies are different, you know. It's kind of, you might not be able to leap or walk or run or whatever it is, or it's more about what that feeling is for us and finding it.
I think letting ourselves feel as well, like letting the feeling in.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I think it probably, if you're really embracing whatever that is from the beginning, the result is enjoyment.
Yeah.
I love the idea that we could all find a mutual and shared joy.
In one angle, it could be joy, but it could also be really different. It could be crying. It could be screaming, grief.
The freedom again, the freeness.
Yeah. It's just, as you were saying, you know, being allowed to feel or be in a place where you can feel and not be worried about that, yet having access to that and that vulnerability, I guess.
In your work, there's often a quite eclectic mix of references, and it's not all kind of highbrow art or fine art that has led you to where you are. It could be populism such as The Simpsons or Spider-Man. I know you spent a lot of time in the Spider-Man outfit. In this dream, what might be some of the references if we were to put together the mood board?
Yeah. I mean, if I'm completely honest, very few of them are art. It is more along the popular culture and music. Bruce Lee's in there, Michael Jackson, Eddie Murphy, The Simpsons, some of these kind of big Hollywoody movies, Interstellar, cooking programs, probably nature documentaries.
I was just thinking of all these intergalactic visuals, and then you just throw cooking programs into there.
That's how the mind works, though, isn't it? It's
I
like,
know.
it's just like, why does that connect up? It's kind of, don't know. And some sort of epic movie soundtrack that makes you feel epic, and something physical. Yeah, like the martial art that I love the most is Wing Chun, and it's what you find in The Matrix is definitely in this mood board, because it doesn't feel like it's about violence. It feels about like movement and connection and keying into somebody else's weight and sort of situating yourself with somebody else on the ground,
Is there anything from the natural world, because we can combine it all, in terms of the actual architectural space that we are in? I really am getting the sense of our commitment to being embodied and truthful to that. But what do we see or feel and are responding to in terms of landscape?
I think space, vast space, desert. One thing in my mind at the minute, my ideal residency is somewhere like Texan Desert, or
Really?
Something like that, where it feels like flat and wide and I'm on my own.
I've hardly ever been in a desert space.
No, neither have I. Very rarely. And don't get me wrong, I mean, it's not like I'm not sort of thinking alone in the desert with no comforts. I'm still a city boy. I still want some sort of access, be able to drive an hour or two and find some people, but and I still want, a home to live in the studio.
I love that honesty, because sometimes when we're questing and we're really stretching the reality of what is possible, I find it's really easy to veer off like the norm or nature of what I actually exist in.
Yeah.
It's like, I really want to do the fast, and I don't want to see anybody, and it's going to be incredible purification for my mind. Whereas you're just straight up like, I'm a city boy, okay?
Yeah.
Like, if we can just have some mod cons quite near.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm not always good at it, but you've got to say what you want, or be able to ask for it. And so that's part of it, trying to think, okay, desert and space and vastness, what bit of that do I want? And what bit do I still want? Coffee in the morning. And, access to the internet and a few times if I want to check something out or speak to someone. You know what I mean? It's those what might sound like contradictions, but it's who we are, isn't it?
But it's one of the pleasures of actually being a contemporary human being here in a very potentially divisive, noisy, terrifying modern time. We perhaps, when in practice of harmony to our true selves, and there's no one that can dictate what that looks like as to what it is we actually need except for us, really. This has been such a beautiful experience, a real tonal score. I love this idea of actual reverberation in our bodies, the food, the smells, the comfort, the dance element, the expression, the space, but at the same time, the safety of convenience and being able to connect. A Ford Escort.
You said dream world, Gemma. Yeah, I'm bringing it.
The smell of mangoes.
Yeah, man. It's a good roundup.
Would we be exhibiting any of your previous work that is a nice way to really invite us into your world, or is this a completely new dream?
I don't know if the dream should be about my work. It should be less about, wow, look at that cool thing that guy's made, and more something that can be there for you to experience for yourself.
Kind of feels like a public service.
yeah, that's what a dream world should be. Exactly.
I'm Gemma Cairney, and you've been listening to Dream Space from Factory International. Today you heard all about Hetain Patel's liminal universe, including Ford Escorts and arid, huge, vast landscapes, but not too far away from being able to get a cup of coffee. Join us next time to dive into artist Gazelle Twins' Dream Space. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure that you like and subscribe, please, to the podcast. Your support does mean a lot and it makes a difference. Share it far and wide. And if you can't wait until the next episode, then head to Factory International's website to find more exciting artistic content on Factory Plus. And if you've just discovered our Dream Space, then where the heck have you been? Why not check out the first series with previous guests including S. Devlin, Jen Nakuru, Lem Sisay and Maxine Peake. There's some real magic in those interviews. Dream Space was hosted by me, Gemma Cairney, and this episode was produced by Sylvia Malnati, with sound design by Femi Oriogun Williams and theme music by Andrew P.M. Hunt. The executive producer is Kit Callan, and it is a reduced listening production for Factory International, curated by Scott Smith and Alex Mannion Jones. Until next time.